Hello guys, it's Uche Alex here again and welcome to the course where we'll be jumping right into Photoshop and take a quick tour. At this point, I know you must have the Photoshop software because I have directed you to download it long before now. And for us to be on the same page, we're actually working with Photoshop CC 219. So all you have to do at this point is to go right into your Photoshop software and open it up. Now Photoshop is loading and let's allow it to open up. And here our Photoshop is ready for use. And I've told you before that we chose Photoshop because Photoshop is the most advanced photo editing and design software. In fact, it's the industry standard for photo editing and graphic design. So right here by this left here are the various tools we use in designing or manipulating images in Photoshop. So it's really pretty easy to understand. Once you hover your cursor on any of the symbols, they quickly show up their names and what they do. And as you can see here, this is the move tool, and right after the name move tool in the bracket, you can see the shortcut for the tool, which is the letter V. And Photoshop even goes further to explain to you that the move tool is used to move a selection or a layer. Then this is the elliptical marquee tool. It's used to make selection, and all these tools that have, as you can notice, a tiny dot, a tiny arrow by their bottom right. What that means is that this tool is not just one, they are actually a group of tools in that category. So all you have to do is to hold down your mouse, or if you're using a laptop, just have to left click and the various tools within that category instantly shows up. Like here, you can see you have rectangular marquee tool and the elliptical marquee tool. Then here is the lasso tool. The lasso tool is used to make selections, and you can see amazing thing about Photoshop is that this version of Photoshop 2019 also adds a little preview to make you understand how to use these tools, because at a glance some of these tools can be super intimidating, but they don't have to be. That is why you are in this program. We make you understand how all these tools work. But first, once you hold down on that tiny little arrow by the bottom right, you can see all the tools within that category. You can see the lasso tool and the polygon lasso tool. So we have so many other tools here, and this is magic wand tool and the quick selection tool. They are just there together. And this is eyedropper tool, the 3D material eyedropper tool, and the shortcut is letter I. Then this is the brush tool, the shortcut is letter B. You can hold down on the arrow by the bottom right to reveal other tools within that category. So we have the brush tool, pencil tool, color replacement tool, and mixer brush. Okay, so and so forth and so on in these tools. So these are not just the tools, these are not the only tools we have in Photoshop. All right, so we have several other tools, but they are not here. So this toolbar, this is the toolbar, and this toolbar is absolutely editable, and this is where we can get the rest of the tools. We can hold down on these three dots here. Once we hold down on these three dots, we'll get access to all other tools in Photoshop. Before we do that, let's quickly go over to the rest of the tools that we are having here. This is the eraser tool, and you can see from this preview here, it's used to erase elements or objects from a photo or a design. Then this is a clone stamp tool. It's used to copy parts of an image and duplicate them. So it's actually a photo manipulation tool. Then you have this 3D material drop tool. Also have the text tool, which we use to add text to our designs. If you hold down on the bottom right arrow, you can see the different types of text, the horizontal type tool and the vertical type tool. So you can use it to write text in the horizontal axis or the vertical axis. Then you can hold down on this then to reveal every other tool in this category as well. Here we have the pen tool, we have the freeform pen tool, curvature pen tool, add anchor point tool, delete anchor point tool, and convert point tool. Then here is a path selection tool. We also have the triangular tool. If you hold on the arrow, on the little arrow by the bottom right, you can see it has opened up and we see other tools within that category. Where see the next tool is rounded rectangular tool, ellipse tool, polygon tool, line tool, and custom shape tool. So when we go out of that category, we see this is the hand tool. It also has rotate view tool within that category as well. The symbol here, this tool here is the zoom tool. So as I said before, these are not just the tools in Photoshop. We can have access to more of these tools by holding down, by left clicking on these three dots here, and once you do that, you can see Photoshop gives us a lot of other options, and here are so many other options, so many other tools we have at our disposal. And I don't want to go into explaining all of it to you now. I don't want you to get overwhelmed by these many tools we have in Photoshop. All right, as we get to handle a lot of projects and as we get to use Photoshop and the exercises I'll be giving you in this program, you start making use of all these tools and getting acquainted with every single one of them, and before you know it, you will definitely master all of these tools. So there's one more thing I would like to draw your attention to. This is Workspace. We have different kinds of Workspace. So Photoshop gives us option to have a way we can design our workspace. So depending on the kind of work we are doing. So let's assume you're working on a 3D design. You choose this workspace and it instantly adjusts your workspace here and your tools to fit what you are doing. So if you are designing for graphics and for web, you choose this, and as you can see, your workspace adjusts so that you can quickly have access to tools that you use for that kind of project. When handling different kind of projects like 3D designs, graphic design, motion design, or painting, this is digital painting, or just you're working on a photo like photo manipulation, there are a set of tools that are best used for those kind of work. So Photoshop have presets where it has already saved all those tools for all those kind of projects. So once you click on any of them, it instantly brings out the tools that you most likely use for that kind of project. So when you're doing a digital painting, you click on that and you see it has changed your workspace for you and brought out so many tools that will be required for digital painting. So let's also try the last one, photography. Let's see what we have there. Okay, so and the amazing thing is also you can actually create your own workspace, and as you grow in designing, you can actually decide to create your own workspace and choose the different tools that you use most. So before you do anything in Photoshop, you first of all have to open up a new artboard. So your artboard is like your environment where you carry out your design. So all you have to do is you click on file and hit new, and you can see here you can actually either you go through that process or you hold on your keyboard control and control N, and instantly Photoshop gives you the option to create a new artboard. To create a new artboard, you first of all have to choose the name of your artboard. So in this case, we have introduction to Photoshop. Then artboards, you have to also choose the size of your artboard. All right. So the size of your artboard is determined by what your client wants, document you are designing for. So let's assume you're designing a flyer to be shared, and you know that the size of a flyer is A5 paper. If you're designing an e-flyer that will be shared on maybe Instagram or Facebook, There are standard dimensions for such designs. So all you have to do is just to either you Google to know the dimensions to use, or your client to be the one to tell you this is the dimension I want for this design you are doing for me. In this case, we are designing for physical flyer, which is A5 paper. So all you have to do is, there's a way we can do that here. Okay, see a lot of these options up here. You can click on, Photoshop has made it easy. You can click on this print here and look for A5. So here we have A5. Once you click on this A5, you instantly get the size. Photoshop instantly loads up the dimension of that A5 paper for you here. And another way we get our dimension is by Googling. So you quickly go to Google and type in the dimension of A5 paper. And as you can see here, Google has given us the dimension in millimeter and in inches. So here is the dimension: 148 by 210 millimeter, or 5.8 inches by 8.3 inches. It depending on the metrics you're using. So let's use 148 by 210 millimeter. So let's go back to Photoshop. There we'll make sure that since we're using the millimeter, we'll make sure that we have this in millimeter. Or if we're using inches, we'll have to take the dimensions in inches, which is 5.8 by 8.3. So we'll just do the 5.8 by 8.3. So we'll just have to do that. And if you're using inches, you can still convert that to millimeter if that is what you're working with. As simple as that. And if you look at the preset of A5 paper here by Adobe, you can see that it's almost the same thing. We have 148 by 210 millimeter. So here we have 147.82 by 210.82. So let's go back to inches. So we're back to inches. So then we also have here the resolution of the artboard. The resolution determines how sharp or clear your designs are. So we use 300 resolution, so it's a higher resolution, and also color mode. When designing, we have two major types of color mode for our design. The color mode you choose when you're making a design that will be printed out is not the same color mode you choose when you're making a design that will be shared online, that as will be used on our gadgets like phones, laptops, or just generally within our gadgets, electronic gadgets. This is because the way our phones, laptops interpret colors and images is not the same way our printers at the printing press understand and interpret color. So when designing, you have to have this in mind. You need to choose your color code according to what you're designing for. In this case, we are designing for print, on A5 paper. And when you're designing for print, you have to choose the CMYK color. So CMYK color is the color mode that printers understand. And when you're designing an e-flyer that will not be printed out, you have to choose the RGB color mode. If for any reason you mix these things up, let's say you use the RGB color mode for a design that will be printed out, at the end of the day, you realize that the colors that will appear from your printout will be totally different from the colors you have in Photoshop in your design when you were designing in Photoshop, and that is pretty messed up. So you really need to have this in mind when you're designing. So whenever your client gives you a job, you need to first of all understand if the job is for print or just to be shared online. Then if it is for both ways, to be printed and shared online, that means you have to make two designs. That means after designing maybe in RGB color mode, later you have to convert, you have to make another copy where you change the color mode to CMYK. Well, I'll later in the course will show you how you can do that. You can make a design in one color mode and later convert it to another color mode. This way the client can share the one in the RGB color mode on the phones and design and devices online, while they print out the other one in the CMYK color mode. So this here is just to decide the color of the artboard. So white is fine. Let's go with white. So once we are done with this, we just hit. All right. So now we hit the create button and we are here. So now we have our artboard created and we are ready to start designing. And this brings us to the end of the introductory course to Photoshop. See you in the next course where we'll be going deeper into the use of Photoshop. And before you go, as an activity for this course, you have to open up Photoshop and create a document, an A5 sized document with RGB color mode. Don't use CMYK. We're not trying to print out anything yet, so leave it at RGB color mode. Do that, screenshot it and paste